So I wrote this program. I mean, a Google Sheet program, basically using Google Sheets to verify attendance. One of the teachers in my school, she had all the kids coming in to sign in as a verification, which is a smart move. I personally have the kids come in, sit down at their workstations, and fill out a workstation accountability form. So that way I can keep track of who's on what computer, and this way if the computers get messed up, who was sitting there at that time, narrow it down to the problem. But every teacher has their way of verifying that the kid was actually in the class, because it does happen where, I've had a kid come in late and I forget to change that they came in late. I had marked them absent, and 2 weeks, 3 weeks goes by, and then the parent gets the report card and says, wait, they weren't absent, and then they do the investigation and they weren't absent, they were here. I'll check my workstation accountability and say, oh, they were here, I did make the mistake, I'm sorry. But other teachers have them sign in, they'll go back and check the papers and say, oh, yep, they were here on that day, or nope, they were not here on that day. But having all the kids physically come in and sign in, very much like teachers, having everybody sign in, it bottlenecks when people are trying to come in. It's a slow process. You got to write your name, date and all that stuff. And the way I see it is, since everybody has IDs with barcodes on them, why don't we just scan it in? So I had actually said that to her. I said, hey, if you get one of the scanners, then the kids can just scan the ID and it'll come in. So basically, I wrote this program for her, but I want to share it with you in case you want to do that as well. And then, this way also I'm going to share this with that teacher. So this way, if I'm ever not here, there's a problem with the form, she knows how it works, right? So if you look at, this is the template, right? And so every day she copies this form, right? And creates a new day. And I'm not exposing any actual, ID information here. I just want it to show how the program works. So if you look here, I use VLOOKUP, and it goes A2, which is this cell here, A2. That's where the information is going to come from. So that's why it says NA right now, because all of the fields are empty. But she would click here, scan the kid's code, right? So if I go to my copy of code, I got John Jacob Jingleheimer. These are not the real kids, obviously. I don't want to expose real kids' information. But if I copy John's stuff, and then I go over to my scan template, and then I'm just going to change this to copy of code, because I don't want it to actually give you the child's name, or it's actually lowercase, copy of code. And that's an error because I don't think you can have. So let's change this real quick. Instead of copy of code, let's say rename. We'll rename this to code 2, because your syntax has to be correct, obviously. So I'll come over here to scan template, and I'll actually change this to copy of code 2. Alright, and instead of copy of code, because space, they don't like spaces. It doesn't like spaces. So now it's going to go to code 2, right? And if I copy the thing, there goes John, right? So as she scans, it's going to pull from the code 2, right? So on the actual code form, they have the names and the students, because we know that information. And I'm not going to put that so you can see it. I don't want to share that on YouTube. But then now she'll scan, and it'll say, okay, it looks down that aisle and says, okay, this information has the name John, right? And so, through A2 to B28, right, which is A2, that's A2 here, to B28, which is here. So in these two columns, it's looking for the student ID that it was scanned in. If it finds it, it'll now post the name, right? And there you go. So that's why it's saying the index of 2, which is the second thing. And you can look up how to use VLOOKUP, but that's basically all I've done here is I've created, we have a form that has all the kids' names for all the periods, and then, the teacher that I made this for, she'll copy this for each day, scan, 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 period 1, scan, 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 period 2, and now the names will propagate, and whoever's absent obviously will be at the bottom, and they won't be there. And it's a very simple way of keeping track of, kids, student, whether they're there, and you're just using a student ID, so now they don't have to sign in and all that. And hopefully, we can, if this becomes like a viral thing, this is how teachers should be signing in. I've said it many times, I shouldn't have to sign into the building to say that I'm here. When I use my ID to enter the building, because it's an RFID, whatever system is keeping track that my ID has access to the building should also be saying, Mr. Hernandez is here. But anyway, that's my wishful thinking, hoping that, we can become more efficient in the things that we do. But I just wanted to share that because that's using Google Sheets in a very practical and real way. And there it is.